Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekend Rental, episode 104. We are your gaming and geek culture podcast. As always, my name is Ryan, and I'm joined by Andy.
Hey.
And Biff.
What's going on, guys?
All right, if you enjoy our content, head on over to Geekade and check out a whole plethora of geeky-related content over there. Video games, music, comics, movies, and more. Geekade.com. What's your geek? Well, I think we might as well start off with the topic that none of us want to discuss because
it's disgusting.
Yeah. So this news, as of the time we're recording this, just broke within a day or two. And that is the auction sell of the century. The first video game to go for over $1 million. And it was a copy of Mario 64, graded, I guess, but still 1.5 mil. Insanity.
1.5 mil too much.
Yes. And that's hot on the heels of Zelda, standard Zelda for the NES, factory sealed, again selling for $870,000. So I don't know what's going on in the retro market.
Well, guys, I want to first start off by saying that I'm a proud new owner of a new Zelda game, box complete, VGA graded and everything. I just bought it for $880,000.
It's too bad because you only got the spotlight for about 12 hours.
I know. Dang it. No, this is ridiculous. We were talking a little bit before we were recording, and this is... My wife talked to me about this. So it's that mainstream. My wife doesn't care about anything video game related. And for her to catch the news, that's exactly who the article's for. So what happened, instantly, like we all kind of thought would happen. She's like, wait, you have that game. It's worth that much. And, it's just... the public is now going to be extremely misinformed. And then we're also going to see the price of games rise. Like those ridiculous ones that even loose, they're like, well, if it's 800,000 in a box, it's got to be worth 100,000 loose, right? That's the proper math.
Mm-hmm. You don't have a 64 though anymore, right? You sold that collection?
No, I don't have a 64. Get that garbage out of here.
Good man. Good man.
Don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. It was bad, a few years back when you were seeing like the $10,000 stuff for like, what was it, World Class Track Meet or not World? What's the one?
Stadium events.
There, yeah. There we go. So like that stuff is bad. But anytime you see these things with very notable, casual audience characters, the Marios and the Zeldas, like, yeah, it is just a dumpster fire of lunatics who now think they're sitting on gold, and they can't fathom why. And really, let's be honest here, there is zero reason that either of those items should have sold remotely where they did. Zelda, one of the best-selling games on that console. Mario 64 probably was was that the number one selling game on the 64?
Probably. Yeah.
So these are not rare games. There are certainly, without question, box copies in same or similar conditions out there.
That Zelda one had it was like a really early print run. So it was like a limited window, right? Like a couple months or something. Yeah. So that one at least had something, but this Mario 64, it's...
Well, yeah, let's say another one comes on the market tomorrow, right? There's no way it's getting $1.5 million.
No.
Like, why would it? That doesn't make any sense. The one lunatic bought his copy.
If I had a sealed collection, because there's guys out there, they got plenty of them.
Yeah.
I would be sending it to VGA grading and just cashing everything out. That would be the smartest thing to do.
I mean, there's got to be factory cases of that game somewhere.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Probably sitting on a box somewhere. Yeah, easily. I just realized as we were talking about this, because I was looking around my game room to see what I might have that's sealed. I have a factory sealed minty copy of MechWarrior 2.
Nice.
The Sega Saturn. Do I VGA grade it? Is this worth something?
It's going to be worth something.
The case would probably crack on the way to.
Shit, you're right. Things like this is at least a 9.9.
I have a sealed Hexen on the Saturn. A sealed Hexen.
Do you?
Yeah, factory sealed.
Man, we're gonna be so damn
Actually,
rich.
someone offered me $60 for it today, and I said, "Okay, you can have it."
Yep.
They're gonna get a VGA graded.
Probably. That's more than okay. I got $60. He got 1.5.
So, I mean, the real question is, like, there's something going on. Like, this isn't just a guy who's into retro games, right? Can't be.
You wouldn't think so.
I mean, there's something really strange going on with that amount of money. I mean, I wonder if it's like one of those things where they did hear about, because there was a sealed Mario that went even before the Zelda that pretty high, right?
Right. Yeah, it was 100 and some thousand, I think.
Yeah, so I wonder if that got the news, and then the outsiders like, oh, let's get into this, let's throw money at this, and that's when the Zelda went. And that even got more press. So then it's just these people that have a ton of money and they just want to have their name in the spotlight.
Can you imagine the first time your grandchildren come over and they pull that sucker off the shelf and rip it open?
Well, at least it's sealed in acrylic, so I don't think that's even possible. You need like a special tool to get through that.
It'd be stinking awesome. I'd laugh at that guy.
Because that's the whole thing, right? Like when they grade them like that, it's like in the acrylic and there's like a gas or something in there to like preserve it or whatever.
No idea.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they go like to the extreme.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a 9.8, which is incredibly rare for them to be rated that high, even from the factory. So that's probably part of this, but still, like, I don't think it's about the grade, right?
Nope.
No, I think it's just stupid. Just somebody with too much money to just show the fact that he can blow it on Mario 64.
Yeah.
It makes me sick.
Well, I mean, the other shoe kind of dropped earlier today that PSA, who is probably the leader in grading stuff with comics and sports cards and stuff like that, they are, I guess, in agreement of purchasing Wata Games, who's the video game grader. So then you have to wonder, is there some like pumping up this stuff to leverage, the amount of this sale or something like that? Like it can't be a coincidence that all this stuff pops off like this, and then this sale is happening, because a sale doesn't happen in that quick, right?
Right.
So there's something definitely going on, I think, internally at the grading system, because I think they have a pretty fishy deal with the auction house as well, but I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't sit right. That's for sure. It seems a little too coincidental.
And overall, I mean, it's so ambiguous anyways, when it comes to the grading, especially like video game boxes. Like you said, you could be getting something from the factory and it's brand spanking new out of a box and couldn't be rated that high, or I don't know. The process seems very confusing. And what are the standards? And I don't think anybody knows. There's multiple grading companies out there now that decide that they're going to just look at things.
There's only 2 for video games, though, right? There's only Wata and one other group.
I thought there was 3.
There's probably some other smaller ones. Yeah,
a lot.
Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, it all just seems phony because there's no market for that. I don't feel like.
Yeah. Well, and PSA does. They tell you like this is how many people or how many of this card was graded at this amount, so like how rare a 1980 Ricky Henderson card is, how,
sure. But like, here's how many are graded of X game has got to be like next to nothing for all of them. So like it's false rarity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But they don't even provide that information either,
Oh, yeah.
And then if a new company takes over, do they change the process, and then all the ones that have been graded now, like if once you change the process, it uproots everything, right? Of all the ones that have been graded.
I mean, and the thing too is like with comics and cards, right? Like the grading and like the condition of that is the media itself, right? Like it makes sense that you'd want the best conditioned version of because that's the thing you're buying. With a video game, it's the fucking game. Like, sure, you can make an argument that like I want a pretty box, but that doesn't change your overall enjoyment of how the game plays at all. So it's just stupid.
Sure. But I mean, yeah. But if either of us all of a sudden found a factory sealed Mario 64, we're not going to be like, oh, I always want to play this game and rip it open,
I certainly wouldn't, but I wouldn't buy it anyway, even if it, it was like, you'd have to pay me at $1.5 million to take that piece of crap.
Yeah. I'm just saying that there's a point where I think probably pretty much everybody realizes it's beyond a game at that point, right? It's a collectible.
It's art.
As much as we don't want it to be.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
I would say that my threshold is a little lower than Ryan's. So if you're scared to write a check to Ryan, go ahead and make that check out to me. I'll even you could pay me $100 to take it and I will. So.
Giggity.
Giggity.
You need a 64 with it though then, right?
Oh yeah, dang it. Don't have one of those.
Yeah, and those aren't cheap anymore, I'm sure, but
no.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a disgusting story and kind of sick of hearing about these. This probably isn't the end of it, but
no.
Yeah, who knows what this is going to sound like when this podcast actually comes out.
The floodgates are going to open up.
Well, that's the thing.
Gulping up.
Gulping up.
Like the card grading, I think they shut it down because they were like so overwhelmed with people sending shit in that.
And again, the rarity goes down then.
Right.
The rarity is gone and then you're out of business as a grading company. So
yeah.
You got to make that limited.
Yeah. There's even a VHS grader out there now.
Those are like literally rotting. I mean, that media is literally crumbling at this point.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
The grade is a sliding scale. Here's where it's at now, and then they give you like an estimate for like every subsequent year what the number will be.
And those are even worse because, like most stores, how many stickers they put on those VHS tapes, So it's funny seeing them in the grade and it's just like Best Buy stickers all over the place on it. And
yeah, that's nuts. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
It's going to be grading everything. Is there, like how they always had like my Cheetos shaped like Jesus, those things? Is there a grading service for that? Like send your chip in and
just eBay.
We'll grade your chip.
You just upload the photo and the better the memes that come out of it on Google is like how your grading scale, which is hilarious because I just Googled Cheeto. It's a work thing. It makes sense if it won't make sense to anybody else. But anyway, I Googled Cheeto this week to find a meme and then immediately pulled up one that somebody was holding a picture of a Cheeto that was a guy masturbating. And I was like, yeah, that's a dude masturbating. That's a great Cheeto. It was pretty perfect.
I hope this was on a work computer.
Oh, for sure. Yep, 100%. I didn't click on the masturbating Cheeto. It just came up in a random Google search. So,
I mean, you almost have to click on it, though,
almost
to get the full story.
I'm sure people click on worse stuff.
Yeah.
I have immunity.
Speaking of worse stuff, I wanted to share this story. I had my son in the vehicle, and I'm not a big, I know this is going to sound bad, but I'm not a big podcast listener. And I just feel like I don't have the time, and I don't always know what to listen to outside of Weekend Rental. And so you see what I did there, guys. But we were listening to a video game podcast that will remain nameless. And
no, that's no fun. We got to know. Who was it?
My son was, it's an IGN podcast.
Oh, yeah, there's your mistake right there.
Yeah. So
Nintendo voice chat?
I didn't know that initially. And so it's a trio that's talking. And I wasn't really paying attention. My son is like gasping in the back of the car, and he's like, "Oh my gosh. Oh, can you believe this?" And I had no idea what was going on. And so I was like, what's happening? He's like, "Dad, turn it up. They're a bunch of liars on there. They're a bunch of liars." And he was getting so pissed. And so I turned it up, and sure enough, the guy was talking about how much he loves Zelda games, and you run around playing as Zelda. And like this guy just kept on going on. And my son's like, "That's not even a thing. There's no Zelda game you play as Zelda."
Yeah, there's the one in the 3D or Philips CDI.
It blew me away. No, they were talking about Ocarina of Time.
He's just being a smartass.
No, I believe it. But yeah, it was a big video game podcast, and this guy went on and on about you're traveling as a young Zelda, and we're like, no, that's not it. But it was just,
maybe he named his character Zelda, so he felt,
maybe. But I was impressed with my son. That, I mean, we hear that all the time. People, it just slips sometimes when you're like, "Oh yeah, Zelda." No, but it is kind of one of those weird, confusing video game things that you don't actually play as Zelda. And
yeah,
it was awesome for my son to call them out, but disappointing in the world podcasts.
I recommend following Nextlander podcast and just listening to that, because that is now the new greatest gaming podcast.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've checked that one out.
Bombcast would be the other one. Nextlander's the Beastcast people. They're back.
And I listen to a lot of things in like Spotify, and I just found out, it's very limited as far as, what's out there for podcasts. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to a bunch, and like I throw them on when I'm at work, but then I'm also working. So I pick up like, if 25% is generous, I guess, of what's actually being said, but
no,
keeps the chatter down.
I mean, it's kind of hard to find one to listen to with your kid in the car sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, that includes us, but
well, and I always make the mistake with us of like playing it, and I forget when I've said something about my kid being a dink, and then my kid's usually always in the back seat and calls me out on it. So
do they notice or say something?
Ryder gives me so much crap. He'll be sitting there, with like a Switch or something, and I'll say something. He's like, "Dad!" I'm like, "Oh, jeez, I'm sorry."
That's so funny that they can multitask and hear much better than us multitasking. And we, like you said, we catch like 20% of what's happening, but they hear every single word. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Just gonna, put out a podcast about, okay, it's time to go to bed. Go brush your teeth. Maybe they'll listen to that.
Yes.
That way.
Yep. Yeah. Video Game Dads is a good one. If you're looking for one, Biff, play around.
I used to listen to some
kids.
Nintendads.
Yeah. I didn't mind that one.
But I got tired of the Switch talk. It got a little old.
Yeah. Their opinions on a lot of franchises were wildly different than mine too. And I got kind of like, well, I'm like, I can't really relate to that. That's a very good podcast though. That one's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, Weekend Rental, obviously we're up there. Tough to beat. The other Geekade podcasts, obviously everyone should listen to those too. Yeah. And
I didn't check out the Spotify top 10. I think we were like sitting probably number 4 or 3.
Which is fantastic, because we haven't even gotten this thing on Spotify yet. So if we're already charting.
I mean,
that's how good we
That's
are.
pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. At least we know the difference between Link and Zelda. So
Speaking of that, I guess I didn't have this down on our topic list, but that's happening this week. Skyward Sword HD. Is it you guys picking this thing up?
I don't know. I was kind of excited about it, and then the whole buying amiibo for the shortcuts thing really made me think that this isn't really an upgrade then.
Well,
even if you can play it without motion control.
And I agree with you. Like that is the biggest like cash grab move. But I think we can all rest comfortably assured that you'll be able to get an NFC card from Etsy for about $5, 2 days after that thing's out. So I think that helps take the sting out of it. So I've listened to 3 reviews so far from not like major, places, but pretty, good like Nintendo Life or whatever on YouTube. And everyone kind of like has really praised this. Like they said, like the small quality of life improvements, things that you wouldn't get excited about on paper, like actually make this the game it probably should have been.
So I'm a little bit behind. I know the game's coming out, but what are some of the upgrades that they're doing?
So the fast travel between the land world and the hub world, if you have the amiibo only, but they added freeform camera controls. If you are not using the waggle controls, though, you have to hold like the L trigger to toggle between like your right thumbstick being the camera or swinging your sword, which not as convenient, but everyone that I've listened to has kind of said like you do get used to it. So it did not have a free moving camera before. It runs in a solid 60 frames per second. They cut out a ton of redundant text. And like the fee or fey or whatever that companion is not overbearing. And then they've sped up text speed and just overall tons of quality of life improvements. And they said the sword controls, even with the thumbstick, well, they're not absolutely perfect. They're about as good as you'd expect. So it sounds like it's just really kind of taking it to the point where it's the game it probably should have been and less of a frustrating slog. I mean, because let's be honest, by the time that came out, nobody was really playing the Wii, and that it required the Motion Plus, and even then it didn't give you very accurate controls. So it was a very broken game from the get-go due to their reliance on that. And then, nobody's said it nobody's really said much about the graphics, but I just remember how washed out and like blurry all the edges were on those Zelda games on the Wii. So to me, like the crispness in the visuals makes a huge difference too. So yeah. Sounds like this is a solid entry now.
I never played this game, and it's been on my list to check out at least. But I'm not one to pop anything into the Wii. I don't care about the Wii, and I have no interest in Wiimotes and all of that stuff. So I think this might be a good opportunity for me to check it out, see if I like it.
Yeah. I think I'm going to pick it up and play it through with my son, like do couch co-op.
When's the release date again? Friday.
I picked that up day one on the Wii, and man, I had a hard time even with the tutorial of the sword swinging, and it had to have been something in my setup or the Wii controllers or something just weren't working right.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. It was like you said, it's like one of the last main Wii games that they made.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you start with Wii Sports and it's like, holy shit, this thing works just like you think it would, with tennis and all that. And then you end it on Skyward Sword where it's just like, this thing doesn't work.
Well, yeah. And like the concept of Skyward Sword was so appealing too. It's like, holy, you're up in the sky. You can travel on this bird. Like it's the stuff that you think was going to be so amazing in a Zelda game. And it's just completely botched by their forcing of motion controls, because they could have built it without that. I mean, it would have been fully doable. And I don't think anyone was thinking, what would make Zelda a lot better if I had to go like this with my hand to make the sword swing. Nobody thinks that, so yeah, it's nice to hear that this is like turned this this is more than maybe just like an update. Maybe it is worth the $60, and that this might be a game that instead of being very polarizing, like this might make it one of those games that people will want to recommend now in the Zelda universe. So I'm pretty excited. I'm glad I didn't play before. Like, I did not buy it right away on the Wii. I got it for like $20 on a Kmart clearance. If anyone remembers Kmart's. And I've just never played it because for the longest time, even after buying that, I didn't get a motion control plus controller until maybe like, I don't know, 4 years after nobody cared about the Wii. So I ran around it. So yeah, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna try and send my wife out to get the Amiibo. Actually, I'm gonna try and get 2 of them. To try and find one for Chris from Stone Age Gamer Podcast. He wasn't able to get a pre-order in, so I told him I would look. Usually in the Midwest, it's easier, right? And then I think if I can get them, I'm gonna get those Joy-Con too. I really like those Joy-Con, and I've only ever rocked my original pair of Joy-Con the entire time I've owned a Switch, so might as well upgrade it. And since we're here, it's the perfect segue to talk about the most exciting news in the Switchverse.
OLED.
It's called the Swold. Get it straight.
Swold.
Everybody's mind's blown on this one. We're all pre-ordering one for everybody in the family.
Take my money now. This is, I mean, the Switch OLED or Swold or whatever you want to call it. That just disappointing for me, especially, being a Nintendo fan. Ryan and I spent some time talking about expectations and what we'd like to see in this Switch update, whatever it is, and Nintendo's like, yeah, we just want to change the screen. That's it. And nothing more. Oh, you want a little more memory?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit. I think I had mentioned how I wanted more storage, and hot damn, did they deliver double the storage?
They doubled it.
5 more cents to put the 64 gigs in there versus the 32. Like, holy crap. Couldn't even get that right, Nintendo. I mean, that's the thing, is they could put 250 gigs in there, right? It would cost them what?
Easy.
Maybe $10 in manufacturing costs? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a joke. The kickstand is probably the best edition, right?
Yeah. Well, that's only because they completely failed the first time, right?
Yeah, and it's not like OLED's bad technology. Like, it's super exciting, but I also remember when the last time I feel like anyone said OLED and got amped about it was when the Vita launched. And that was like, what, 13 years ago?
And they still had, that had the OLED in it, yeah.
Yeah.
But, what guy wouldn't spend a few $100s to get an extra inch, right?
Well, when you put it like that, where do I pre-order this thing?
Yeah. I've never heard anybody put it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
that's very smart.
I see why they didn't announce this at E3 because, the hype train had gone bonkers about a hardware update, right? Like everyone, if they would have said this alongside everything else they did at E3, people would have been up in arms. So it was smart of them to wait. And I'm disappointed in this news, but it's not, if you look at it from the context of like, oh, this is a revision of their hardware and this is the new standard model, like this makes perfect sense. I'm excited for everyone who's going to buy a Switch with this new iteration, but this is not even close to being anything that myself, at least me personally, and probably a lot of us out there need to pick up as Switch owners. It's not worth the upgrade to me. Not at all. No. Not in the slightest. And I never take mine out of the dock. And I also love the inclusion of a LAN port from the company who can't figure out how online gaming works. So I'm assuming they did that so people can play Fortnite better. Epic Games was like, no, well, please do this. We need this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's like the XL version, right?
Yeah.
Basically, the premium XL.
Yeah, it's the new 3DS.
You'd think they could add a few more features in it, but...
Well, I guess the new 3DS technically had better chipset, didn't it? But
yeah.
I guess if you don't put games out that use it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for people who have held off and want a new Switch. Or maybe you're like a kid who got into like the Switch with the Switch Lite. Now you're ready for like the big boy console,
Big boy console.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, great, good. I'm going to hang in there for like something more significant, though. This is not.
No, exactly. Not fixing the Joy-Cons, though. That's
problem.
Inexcusable. That's embarrassing.
And even if they didn't include a left Joy-Con with a D-pad on it, couldn't they have also maybe launched that alongside it as an option to buy separately?
Yeah.
That's all I want. Why can't I get an official left Joy-Con with a D-pad? Yep. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Mine, my original pair just started drifting now.
That sucks.
So can't use those anymore.
That really sucks.
It's just, I mean, that's nuts. Like they basically were threatened with a lawsuit over that thing, right?
Yeah. But they're still doing open-ended fixes though, right?
I'm not sure. But then why wouldn't you fix that in the new one? Just
I can give you a hot tip that is probably not advised or sanctioned in any way by anyone who is intelligent, but my son's right analog stick started drifting on his Switch Lite. And I just, again, this is not a good idea. I'm just going to tell you though that it did work.
Disclaimer.
I just squeezed a little bit of hand sanitizer in there because it was COVID. And I rubbed it around and it actually fixed it. So it could just be crud in there.
Sticky
Maybe get
stuff,
some isopropyl alcohol. Not what I did is probably a better suggestion. But it might
some
work.
KY. Just some KY.
Yeah, really get things rolling. Yep, that's true. And that's all water.
This is going to be a whole different drift.
Yeah, that sucks.
Didn't he just get that Switch Lite?
He
Not
got
too long
it
ago, Christmas?
2 Christmases ago. Yeah, whatever Christmas it launched.
2 Christmases. Okay.
Yeah, because it was like, September 2019?
So the drift, I mean, a couple of years isn't.
Yeah. Well, and in his case,
I thought it was just this past December.
It was just crud. No. He's had it for quite a while now.
Yeah, that sounds like it's a different than the other thing. It seems like it's more internal. That goes wrong with them,
I mean,
right?
it was just drifting because it couldn't recenter itself. Like it was imperceptible. Like you wouldn't see it, but and just cleaning it out, it took care of it. So yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to be mad at it, but it's also understandable to be incredibly disappointed by it. So
yeah, and who knows what it would have been if it, chip shortages and all that other shit going on too. So
right,
maybe they had bigger plans. Who knows? But it's also Nintendo, so I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't.
I did kind of like the whole thing where it's like, it's coming out on the same day as Metroid Dread. It's the first game that'll get to take advantage of it. I'm like, get advantage of what? What? The slightly better screen is doing nothing to your game. Jerks.
Do you think you'll notice will be way blacker?
So you guys both talked at the same time.
That was our goal.
Notice the difference?
Question.
I think you would notice the difference playing in handheld. Because if you think about if you got a kid who's got a light and you play a light versus it's noticeable. I don't know that the screen, because the resolution's not changing, right? Like maybe it'll be a little more vibrant colors, but
yeah,
I don't know. Probably.
I don't think you'll see
enough.
I don't think you'll notice much. Maybe some of the colors a little bit, but I don't think you'll notice.
Maybe.
I mean, do you really notice 1 inch bigger? Just gonna leave that one hanging.
Hanging, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depends on who you ask, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Vita screen is pretty nice.
Yeah.
But it's not like there was another Vita. Well, maybe there was one.
That was the complaint, was like when they redesigned the Vita, they switched away from the OLED screen. People were like, it's not as pretty. You got to get the original one. But then but I thought part of the problem with the OLED too on the original Vita was like that it was a battery hog. But maybe that wasn't the case. I don't know. And technology's come a long way since then, but.
Yeah. I used to get like some weird black like spotting or something on the screen sometimes too, which is normal, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's not good.
But
at least you weren't like me, and I got super lucky with the PSP, and I had 1 pixel get stuck that was like lime green right in the middle of my screen. Like a month into owning that thing, I was just pissed. That was back when LCDs were new enough that they're like, yeah, that's normal. That's normal wear and tear. You can't get a replacement. Yeah. Like, screw you, Sony.
Those are pretty big pixels on that thing.
Yes, they're horrible. And I spent a long time massaging it because sometimes you can get them to unstick, and never did happen. But less noticeable in a game, more noticeable in like media and menus. But
yeah.
What are you going to do? Yeah. Nintendo. Well, I got no way to segue into this, so I'm just gonna go for it. So when I think we all had a good time. We can agree when we had Chris and Dan of the Stone Age Gamer podcast on the show. We went on their show. We went down a bit of a rabbit hole because Dan had recently picked up
rabbit hole.
Yeah, picked up this thing called the bidet. We had questions. We basically dedicated like 30 minutes to this topic. And then
I'm so excited for this.
I happened to be in Walmart 2 weeks ago, and I walked through the clearance section, and there's a whole wall of clearance bidets for $25, down from $50. And I was
probably went right to the clearance section. They're like, "What the hell is this? Throw it in the clearance section."
Yeah, so like I took a picture,
bunch of foreigners,
threw it on Twitter, and I was like, "Well, damn it, Dan, I feel like I have to do this now." So I did. I bought a bidet. I hooked it up. It was very simple as he instructed. Like 30 minutes, no mess, no fuss. Did run into a little bit of a problem. Apparently my son's a bad aimer. And the way that you have to hook this bidet on is you have to take those like plastic bolts out of the back of your seat. You got to pull the seat off, put the bidet down, put the bolts back in. Yeah, those yellow, those plastic bolts look like they were covered in like mac and cheese sauce.
Gross.
Oh yeah, in the face that you just made, Biff. I was like pulling those out, and I'm like, bleh, bleh, trying to get them to the sink so I can wash this. Well, I might make myself throw up right now. This very sludgy. Can't do it. Stale piss off these bolts.
Stop gagging. Stop it.
I'm actually kind of impressed I didn't throw up when I did it, but. Anyway, that was horrendous, but thank God I got to clean it off, so I guess it was a blessing. I put the whole thing back. This is going to be an audio treat for anyone listening.
Why did you do that?
This is the worst ASMR ever. You gonna make it, Griff? You gonna make it? Do we need a minute?
Why do you give so much detail?
Because this quality content is what we're here for.
I can't do. I gag so much when you.
But yes, what? When I what? Why do you gag so much? Oh boy, you're just lucky you don't have an extra inch. You'd really be gagging. But I think you need to mute so we can get past this. This is a vicious cycle.
I'm so sorry. I'm pretty sure I just made someone throw up in their car.
Anyway, bidet hooked up, everything's cleaned. And then I'm like, it just so happened about 30 minutes after getting this thing done, nature called, so I got to use it. And it felt as though someone was taking a cold steak knife and prodding it at my beehole. Is about the sensation I got of this. To say it was unpleasant would be an understatement. I felt very violated and was disturbed, and it, to be honest, hurt quite a bit. And I was like, Dan's full of shit. This isn't like the greatest life improvement necessity thing. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then we gave it a few more days. I had my wife try it. It comes with a female setting too, so you can change it to woman, which I guess it's an accurate enough name. But anyway, so it's supposed to be for tinkles too and stuff. And so I just get a text at like 2 the next day. Just, it hurts, like 4 exclamation points. So it didn't initially go over well. And then I kind of realized that it's got a water pressure thing, but it's like I couldn't ever get it to go past like the first notch, right? Because if you went past the first notch, you were like basically skinning your hide off your ass. And then I realized like I just had my water pressure too far. Like I had the gasket too far open. So I was just letting, like, apparently my water pressure must be too strong for this thing. Like I dialed that back down a little bit. And I mean, it's still forceful, but I gotta say, it does a good job. It's kind of refreshing, especially a hot day, get like some swamp butt. Just want to walk out feeling like a squeaky clean person. I kind of can't knock this thing. It does the job.
Are you open to questions?
I mean, I guess, are we going to do this again?
I just have a couple of questions.
Okay.
We kind of have to go there. because I feel like we didn't get into great detail. So when it comes
you want to talk about the piss on the bolts again? I can get into more detail.
No, I'm really not interested in that.
Okay.
So the water, where does it? So you don't dump on something that's shooting at you, right?
Yeah.
So where's the position of this water?
And then I think it's a question we had when we did that podcast. But so it works like really well. It's like at the back of the bowl, and then it's got a shield over it. Like, so it looks like this little, like, kind of box that's like maybe quarter of an inch, half an inch thick that comes down the back of your seat. And then when you turn the water pressure on, like, it like self lowers itself and then sprays you. And then it goes back in that little container thing. And then you've actually got like a self clean nozzle too. So it can just like run in there and wash itself off. So yeah, so far it stayed fecal matter clean.
How many times do you have to use it to get clean?
No, it's just like a constant jet.
Is it instant?
No, I mean, it's not like
because I got a brown marker situation going back there.
It's not like a super soaker where somebody's like spurting it off and on. It's just like a stream. So you turn it on, you just let it like river runs through it. Just spray at that thing. You can wiggle your cheeks around a little if you got to hit a certain spot, and
then you just air dry it.
I mean, I air dry for a little bit, and then I kind of just pat myself down using like, I don't know, less than 1/10 of the toilet paper I'd probably use if I hadn't used it. And then you're good to go.
So you're finding some savings.
Yeah. And then, we had the discussion after we dialed that in. I was asking my wife what she thought about it. And then she pointed out that she was really looking forward to it for certain times of the month. And then I kind of was like, ugh, like I hadn't thought of that.
What are those times?
I don't want to get into that, but like I hadn't considered that, but I guess that makes sense.
Is there a special time?
I mean, maybe. I'm not sure how females work.
Oh, that's confusing.
Probably has something to do with that woman setting, but.
Woman setting.
Yeah. It's pretty good, I gotta say. And the fact that the water's cold, it's Ryder doesn't like it, but I think I think it wasn't working because he's tiny and stuff doesn't line up right. So that probably was not pleasant for him.
Pegging himself.
But like I think my daughter was like incredibly excited to own this thing. And she's been using it, I think, still. But I don't know, I guess I haven't tallied anyone lately. I've used it a few times. And the thing is, the water being cold isn't a problem now because it's summer, but when it's like 40 below outside and I'm already cold, because my cold water definitely gets colder, obviously, on its way into my house during the winter. So I'm guessing that's not going to feel as great, but it's pretty good.
That'll be a good 7 a.m. wake up.
Yeah, you definitely miss it. Like if I'm in a position where I'm somewhere and I'm not at home and I can wait to go at home, it's preferred. I'll say that. Do I need it? No. Is it handy and works well? Yes. Yes, it does. I'm gonna go buy. I'm gonna go buy a second one
that you sent me. They were just piled up. Oh yeah, there.
Of course.
There's so many bidets.
We're in the middle of the Midwest. People are like, what the heck is this fancy sprinkler from a turlet? Nobody needs this. So, yeah, it's cool. Plus, it makes your toilet look like a really cool, like badass rocket ship. Got a whole control bar and everything. Yeah. So interesting. What is the confusion? Everybody looks confused.
I just got a thing that says your call ends in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I got that too. If that happens, we'll just restart and just everybody keep recording. That they must have added a new thing where you gotta like pay now.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid.
You must get like an hour.
Yeah,
I
was confused by that too. I was like, oh.
Yeah. For anyone listening, wondering what that's about, we look at each other on Google Meets and record natively in Audacity. But apparently, Google Meetings is now trying to nickel and dime us. But
I think they assumed that we weren't being productive in this meeting. So
yeah, but we're knocking out all this stuff. Yeah,
we're talking about bidets.
So yeah,
this is good.
If you find one for $25, give it a shot.
I'm so curious now. I feel like I should get one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not like opening up the doors and letting you guys come in and like scrub your asses with my bidets. So don't get any ideas. But
would you be open to just let me try it one time?
No, but you can drive over to that Moorhead Walmart and just grab one for $25. So you'll be good. There's probably still plenty.
You think so?
When I go back to get my second one, I'll grab you one. Does that sound?
Well, I'm curious now. So
yeah, it's all right. All right.
You're the bidet man.
Have a bidet. Get it? Bad joke.
I don't know what you're the fighter of, but.
So speaking of shit, you guys see this Resident Evil Infinite Darkness series on Netflix?
No.
Not great.
Is it out now?
Yeah, I think it came out last week. It popped up in my recommended. I was like, I didn't know they were doing this. So I clicked on it, and then at first I didn't realize it was animated. I was assuming it was gonna be live action. It's not. And it's really inconsistent. I wouldn't say it's a bad show. Like if you're into Resident Evil, you've got some of the iconic characters, but the animation is almost like a video game animation where it's very hit or miss. Like certain cutscenes, stuff looks really good. Others, it looks like horse crap from like PS2. And I want to say it's maybe only 6 episodes. And the plot makes about as much sense as any plot makes in anything Resident Evil ever. So it's just kind of a train wreck, and then they rush the ending and it's done. And you're like, all right. I mean, I guess that was a thing. Not great.
That's kind of what I'm scared of. They, after Castlevania did pretty well, I feel like they're going all in on video game stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like everything else.
Yeah, this doesn't ever get near the highs of like that. Like this only ever gets like mediocre.
Okay.
I have a hard time recommending it. I mean, you can get through it in an evening because it's, only so many episodes, but it's not excellent by any means.
Better than the movies?
Yeah. I mean, 2 is pretty good, right? Like all the callbacks, like the video games, but yeah, this is better than 90% of the movies. So you got Claire and Leon. Leon works in the Secret Service, which I think is funny. And Claire works in the press now. So they're the 2 like characters, And it's just kind of like a giant zombie conspiracy post Raccoon City. So.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a sub scene that's pretty ridiculous in a submarine.
Has that ever been in a game or is it an Evil game?
I want to say, isn't there like that knockoff Resident Evil 2 clone on Saturn that's in a submarine? But I don't know that in an actual mainline one there has been. But yeah, it's a tough one to recommend, but it's I guess it's cool that it exists. I can't imagine they're doing more of them. I don't think this will do well. I saw it was like the week it was out, it was already in like top, or it was already at the 10th spot for like the trending, something's that new and it's already going to fall off that list. That's not great.
Yeah. If Cocomelon is still ahead of you, bad news.
Cocomelon? What's this?
Oh, they sing like ABCs and shit like that. It's all baby stuff. It's on there. It's in the top 10. It's in the top 10 like since it came on there. Just does not leave because, people just throw it on in front of their kids. Oh no.
All right. Google Meetings booted us. Doing this. We're extending it. We're back.
Yeah.
That's annoying. Why did Google Meetings? Why did you do this? So they must cap it to an hour, huh?
Yeah.
That's dumb. Or not even an hour because we talked a little bit before we recorded. Minor inconvenience.
Yeah.
I'm sure you explained what Cocomelon was very accurately throughout that minor.
I sang some of the songs. I did a whole bunch of stuff, but you missed it.
Dang it.
But yeah, on the topic of Netflix, I think just a few hours ago they announced that they were getting into games and they were going to be adding games to Netflix at no additional cost. Sounds like.
How do you play that?
I'm guessing it's streamed, but I don't know the controller.
What device? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, are they going to sell a controller?
Just a TV remote control.
Yeah.
I mean, Roku does that, but that is not fun on a Roku remote, we'll say.
No, especially when your voodoo button's the A button. But
yeah, interesting. I guess they kind of need to do something, right? Because the value proposition of Netflix has been questionable at best for many years now. So a lot of competition. Gotta try something.
Yeah. I mean, they have to almost reach saturation at some point, right? You know, if anything, they're losing because more people are getting into the streaming game of that.
Yeah.
But,
so did they say, will it only be stuff that they publish, or will it be like existing games? And
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I would assume that they would try and get other people in, but this made it sound like they were starting their own division.
Huh.
Whether or not that's actual game development or if it's just, a business division where they license out stuff, I don't know.
Interesting.
But
I mean, I guess
they got to compete with that Stadia.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess if it's not going to cost anything and it's not going to make my subscription go up, okay. I don't think that's going to bring people to their platform, though, sadly.
No.
I think if people really wanted a game and have Netflix, they're probably watching Netflix and playing something on their phone. It's kind of part of the deal.
I mean, I can't imagine that they have a lot into it. I mean, they got to be looking at Google and Amazon and being like, oh, they kind of suck at this. Seems like Xbox is the only one that's really nailing any type of streaming, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, they're the only ones that in theory are making money off of that. And I would assume it's a revenue driver at this point, but maybe they're not quite, but it's got to be. Oh, they got like 18 million subscribers. That's got to be making money. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that. We've chatted a little bit since the last podcast through some texts, but did you end up going to see Fast 9 or F9, Andy?
No. Okay. We were thinking about going to the drive-in that night, but just ended up not.
Yeah. So we got to go see that. My family's run up, the last couple of months to get through all the Fast and the Furious movies. Got tickets. We didn't get to see it opening week. 2.5 hours. I know a lot of people were excited for that movie still.
Were they?
Yeah, it's done incredibly well. Like, it opened worldwide ahead of release date because the demand was that popular. It's been the highest grossing film.
Because they're not competing with anything.
It's the highest grossing film over all of the COVID stuff. Like, it's big. But boy, that movie stink as far as I'm concerned. Way too long for its own good. They break the fourth wall, like characters, like there's literally an entire conversation between two characters about how many times they've done this and nobody ever gets hurt. Like, nobody dies. They should all be dead by now. Maybe we're immortal. And like, that's just the conversation they have in the movie and they just go with it. Like, so they admit, like, they just openly talk about like the nonsense that none of it makes sense and just kind of, if this film is 2.5 hours long and it follows this formula of just 30 minutes of the family talking, it'll be like 10 minutes of the shittiest close quarters, like choreographed fighting. That's all like incomprehensible. Then it'll be like 15 minutes of something in a vehicle. And then they start back over with like the boring dialogue. And it just repeats in that fashion throughout this entire movie. It was just so uninteresting and not funny. And I don't know why. Like the other ones are ridiculous. Like the newer, like the last 4 have all been ridiculous, but this is so ridiculous to a point that it's just not a thing I cared for. The rest of my family seemed to like it. They also ruin Dom's character because, Dom is all about the family. And then, in this one, you find out he has a brother who he disowned. And then, they start off the movie with everybody showing up like, we got a job. And Dom's like, no, I don't do that anymore. It's like, well, this guy's all about family. The whole thing's been based on family, but it's like, only if it's convenient for Dom. Like, so you realize that Dom is like, he's supposed to be the glue, but really he's just a giant prick. is kind of what they did to his character. And John Cena cannot act to save his life. He makes Vin Diesel look like freaking Leonardo DiCaprio in this thing. It's so bad. They take cars into space. That happens.
Huh?
And they've fully latched into again to the whole physics thing of like any speed, hop out of a car, fine. Any speed, height, falling, as long as you land on a car, you're fine. And it's to the extreme once again in this movie. And then you could tell there was some stuff that they like had to assemble with CG later on because I'm assuming they ran into production issues coming up against the pandemic that just look real bad, like real bad CG. I don't know.
It's funny that like we talk about this far along, like how ridiculous it is, like cars in space, blah, blah, blah. And like in the first one, you're like, that's ridiculous. That's not how nitrous oxide works.
Right.
You know,
right.
They've gotten so much worse with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they kind of like they were on that trajectory to where like, yeah, it's got to get more ridiculous to be bigger than the last one. But now it's just so stupid. When you're admitting in your movie with your characters that it's stupid, it's just kind of gone too far. And then bringing Han back was like really not well executed. That wasn't a great story loop. Mm-hmm. Brian makes an appearance, but not like his character's in the movie, but not, well, he's not on screen. So like, they said they're going to do 11 of these. I don't know how they're
Brian, because Kid is the Brian too, right?
Yeah, the dead guy Brian, Paul Walker Brian. His kid's there too. So yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to lead. I would assume they're going to lead up to this thing rounding out and ending. And Paul Walker's character is still alive. So how you wrap that up, I don't know.
Just walk away.
No, I can't.
Just walk away
I'm
from
too
the
invested.
films.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is probably
it's not good.
I would say this is top 3 for the worst. I would rather watch this over 2, but I might watch Hobbs and Shaw over this.
Okay.
So.
Well, I mean, I guess the good news is either they probably return back to being good or they make the next one even worse. So it's like bad good.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of is like they're being so rewarded revenue wise that it's just it feels like it's just going to encourage this insanity. So I don't know. And another thing I noticed too is like this must have overlapped in their timeline to the exact time that Hobbs and Shaw was happening because both of those characters are not present in this film. So it's interesting.
Huh. Well, I suppose they were trying to split them out to be their own thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, still watch it if you're invested in the universe. And I don't mean to poop on anybody who liked it. My family seemed to think it was pretty good, but I don't know. It just didn't. The pacing was wrong. The ridiculous was too ridiculous. And here's the other thing: like, there's an egregious use of electromagnetic technology in this movie. So they use,
but nobody knows how that works.
Right. So, but here's the thing: is like they use electromagnets to like push things away and like suck vehicles in, but they're forgetting the fact that the vehicle you're in is also made out of metal, and by using it, you would be imploding it on yourself or exploding it onto the street. But nobody seems to think about that. They're like, no, see that car over there that's 150 feet away? We're going to turn these electromagnetics on and just suck that thing over to us. Not everything else that's also metal. Except when conveniently they need that to happen, then that does happen. But it's so stupid. It's just so stupid. I can't deal with it.
I can't tell if I want to see it more or less now.
I mean, you have to experience it. It was such a letdown. I really thought it was going to be more like campy goodness, and it is more campy goodness, but I don't know why. It just irritated me this time around. Maybe it's because I didn't get to watch it for free, and it was like $60 for my family to get tickets, and there's $60 for food. And I was like, this is stupid. Get to watch on the ultra screen though, so there's that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, my son only had to piss 4 times throughout this movie. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's great. I spent a lot of time running back and forth to the bathroom.
Well, that's why you don't like it. You missed the key plot points of the movie.
Yeah, that's probably it. Probably it.
You saw another one too?
Yes. So we got Paramount Plus, and A Quiet Place 2 came out, and it launched. I don't know if it was day and date with the theater. Must have been close because I think it just got to theaters, so it's on there right away. And I liked the first A Quiet Place. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's that horror movie where you make noise, big angry animals come eat you and your children. So you have to be quiet all the time. It's a good like suspense movie, one of those like low budget concept films that like really kind of landed well. And this is sort of the, hey, we got more money now. It's kind of sequel, but it's done well. You can just tell they had a bigger budget because there's a lot more CG. It was the first one was very much a movie about not knowing what the enemy was or not really having a clear understanding. And in this movie, those things are on screen quite a bit prevalently. But I think the favorite thing about this story is my wife had texted me yesterday that it was available and I wanted to watch it, but she wouldn't watch it last night because she has to watch Catfish because God forbid she miss an episode of Catfish. I was like,
what's that?
What?
What's Catfish?
I don't know either.
Oh man. Catfish is a TV.
Sounds like a southern fishing show.
Well, it was a movie and then the guy got picked up to do a TV show for MTV. So it's all about people who are in these online relationships, but the other person is like waffling or something's weird. And then usually they find out that they've been like talking to not the woman they think they are. It's like a 50-year-old man and stuff.
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, I hate that show. And she had to watch that. So I was kind of irritated because I was like, well, dang it. I want to watch Quiet Place too. So then my wife goes to bed at like 9 and I was just like, screw it. And I watched it without her. And then I texted her this morning and told her and she was pissed. But Quiet Place 2 is very good. Done well. It's bigger. It's got a bigger budget. It's better, but they kept with the same tone. And yeah, it was really cool. It's a really well thought out movie. They didn't do much to really. The first movie did not really explain how they got into the current situation. And this movie does not do much more to make that any clearer, but it's still a good ride. And Jim's back for a little bit. A flashback.
Oh, he was the main guy in the first one, right?
Yeah. Not in a flashback. You've not seen the first movie. He could still have survived in the first movie. No spoilers there.
I think that's one of the reasons. So what's that Amazon show that he does? I forget what it is, but that
Jack Ryan.
So like there's something about it where you just like expect him to look at the camera and smirk or something,
yes.
Just because it's just like ingrained after that many years. So I feel bad for the guy because like there's people like me who just can't quite like look at him in the same way,
Yeah. And these movies are almost a little bit more tolerable because he's got like a beard. But like in that Jack Ryan one, I'm like, no, that's just Jim. Like when's he gonna make a joke? Like when are we putting something in Jello? Like putting a pistol in Jello, pulling it out of a drawer. Yeah, I'm with you. He's forever that character, but he is a very good actor. But it is hard to break that distinction. So yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. Watch it, especially if you ponied up for Paramount Plus, because Paramount Plus I got because it was like $30 for the first year, but that thing is a horrendous train wreck. There's almost no value in having that outside of getting this and then Picard. That Picard series is amazing, but I don't know. Don't get Paramount to watch it, that's for sure, but check it out when it's available on something else. A lot of movie talk. Are we a movie podcast now again?
Oh, could be.
David Crane's Amazing Movie Team.
You know what I almost watched yesterday?
What's that?
I picked up a live action movie of My Pet Monster.
Okay.
On VHS, but just didn't have enough time to pop it in. I wanted to see what that was all about, but
My Pet
I bet
Monster.
that's great. Yeah, that would have been a good movie. Probably not.
Was that like a toy line?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sure if you saw a picture of it, you'd know exacely.
I'm starting to get he's got like the buggy eyes, right? Like
and like horns and like pink and purple and yeah.
Huh, I had no idea. I suppose that came after the toys to try and help sell them.
Yeah, it must have been, yeah.
Interesting. Where did you find that gem?
Thrift store for like 50 cents.
Nice.
But I sold it, so I had to get out of the house.
How much did you sell it for?
Like 25.
Wow. Yeah, that's a solid deal.
Yep. Should have got it graded though.
Should have got it graded. Yeah, for sure. Did you? That's tough selling something like that because you don't even know if it works 100%, right? Because the tape, something could be weird halfway through. Somebody could have like recorded anything.
Right. And who knows if the other person's VCR is good either, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Who knew that people would start collecting VHS again for real money instead of just pennies in the dollar?
Weird times, man.
It is weird times. Yeah. So I think in between the podcast that we did last time and this one, the only thing I've played was I went on a camping trip with my son and we were going to be backpacking. And so I was like, well, I'll bring something. So we've got something to do in the evening, when we're sitting around the fire or whatever. And I brought my Ardu Boy, which I don't know if I mentioned that in the podcast, but I bought that Ardu Boy and then I had the Ardu Boy FX chip that came out, like the mod chip. So it lets you it comes preloaded with like 100 and some games. And I got that working and that actually makes those things like infinitely more fun. And we had a blast. We just spent like 40 minutes just passing around the Ardu Boy and like playing weird games. And there's some pretty clever use on there for like 2-player games. They like be sharing this like credit card sized console and you've each got 2 buttons to like control like a paddle to play air hockey and stuff. So it becomes just as much about like fighting for control of the device as it does playing the game. But yeah, pretty neat. There was like a rudimentary beat 'em up on there where it was like holiday characters. So you could be like Uncle Sam fighting the turkey from Thanksgiving. And it was pretty good. And then we would just pass it around playing random like arcade D-makes and things like that. But that thing is a ton of fun, actually. It was kind of like the perfect use case for it.
That's awesome.
Holds battery forever and lots of choices on there. And the screen's backlit too. So perfect. It's the ultimate camping console.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you guys about that. So like when I was a kid, camping, no games because you're out there in nature. Get away from the video games. So is that just a generational thing or should it be like that?
I mean, I think for the most part, it should be like that. We've never done it before. I never got to do that as a kid. I suppose I maybe had a Game Boy along, but this is just one of those rare cases where I was like, it's a father-son like thing. Like that's something we both like. He'll get a kick out of it because, he wouldn't otherwise really use that. So it's kind of worked out.
I've never been camping.
But you've seen how it's done on that
shedding
movie.
A tear for you.
I've never experienced it. I don't know how it goes. I don't know how.
Well, you've seen RV. You know how it goes.
Well, I mean, that's the greatest recreational vehicle movie out there. So I kind of have a gist. Do you count people in an RV as campers?
They're glampers.
What's that mean?
It's like fancy camping.
Oh, fancy camping.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds kind of nice to me.
I don't really think it's still camping, but anytime you've got power and a generator or you're hooked up and you can run an AC.
Or a satellite dish.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the same as like a pop-up tent or like even a small camper that's not connected to anything. It's different.
Yeah, I've never experienced the outdoors.
Yeah, the nature thing. Like, what's that all about?
It's not for me. I don't believe so. My kids, I'm going to come across as a jerk, but my kids ask me to take them camping sometimes, and I tell them no.
I got 3 tents.
I don't know how to put one of those up.
I've got one that could sleep both of our families comfortably, and you could have a crib for your youngest.
Are you offering
it's got closets
like that I sleep in a tent with you?
No, I mean, camping can be a bit horrendous with just your own family. I'm not going to jump into a tent with other people. So
why do you do it?
Because I love it. You're outside, nature, it's fun.
I'm better off without it then.
It's super peaceful. I mean, anything
There's
you
definitely
do,
times.
Yeah, anything you can do with your kids can go sideways in an instant, right? But I don't know. It was super nice. Like, it was a beautiful day. It was just an impromptu thing. We just ended up going to a lake, and my kid's like, I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to go somewhere where we can swim, and I want to be able to fish. And I was like, well, here's our options. And yeah, got there, got set up, hit the lake. Water's beautiful, crystal clear. Did some hiking, walked down to a dock that nobody was at, and he fished, was splashing around. I sat there and just kind of soaked it all in, and then had a little campfire.
You're such a man.
Yeah, I'm such a man.
Such a man.
Yeah. Then I think we talked about it before, but listeners may get a kick out of this. But yeah, I've always wanted to, in the last couple of years, I've really wanted to do like an off the beaten path camping trip and try it with a camping hammock, because it was like, that's the ideal way to do it. They don't have to carry a bunch of mats and all this crap. And, but you don't think about the horrendous situation of like trying to find 2 trees in the right position with not a bunch of crap under them to hang a hammock. And then camping hammocks are like $40. And my son's too young to be able to like sleep in one by himself without freaking out. So we ended up doing this trip, me and him, and going with the camping hammock. And I had to try and sleep in a camping hammock with my 7-year-old son. And it was exactly about as restful as you'd expect it to be. So it was just...
Sounds terrible.
It was not ideal. Once he fell asleep and like stopped having the Jimmy legs and like kicking me in the balls and stuff, it was fine. But yeah, I probably got like 4 hours of sleep. So it's great. But it worked out that we woke up with the sun and then went down and got some early morning fishing in. And thanks to those wonderful Canadian forest fires, that sunrise was just the most terrifying, blood red, Majora's Mask, like fear-inducing thing I've ever seen. So I've never seen the sun look like that in my entire life, and a little unnerving. Plus the air quality, it was like, that was the first day that I was up there that I noticed like, oh, it's hazy and that's not clouds. Now the past 3 days here, it looks like constant like smoke in the air. I don't know. Can't be good for everybody.
No,
it's not.
I mean, it sucks, probably worse for Canada, which is on fire, but also we're struggling to breathe down here. So not great.
Yeah,
maybe it's Canada's way of taking the United States out.
I mean, the least Canada could do was take some of their illegal weed and throw that into the fire and give us like a contact high. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. We're getting you vaccine. Give us a little buzz. Come on.
When you look at the air report on the news, right, again, that's something that they don't give you a lot of information, and it says air quality, very unhealthy.
Right.
So then you're like, well, what does that mean? Do I stay in my house? Do I not go out? But they don't give you any more information. It just says very unhealthy. So you're scrolling through like social media. Is anybody saying like, hey, we're dying out here? But
I like that you think that going inside your house changes the quality of the air. It's the same inside or out. I hate to break it to you.
I did change my furnace filter, so should be good to go for at least 10 more minutes. So yeah, it's such a vague thing.
I mean, I have definitely noticed it. Like my sinuses, like the last couple of days when I wake up, are noticeably like, I suppose it's like almost an allergy sort of reaction. You know, it's not horrible, but it's been better.
Yeah, I had so Windows updated and they have it like on your taskbar now. It shows the air quality.
Oh yeah, mine did that too, and it said hazy when I logged on.
Yeah. So like I was inside most of the first day there when it was really bad again. And I looked at that and it just updated. I'm like, oh, it just says it's really bad. And I wasn't outside to see like, oh, it's smoke or some shit. So I'm just sitting here thinking like, oh, I just live somewhere that the air is just always bad, I guess.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the case because you're the most remote of all of us. You should have the best air. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to think that, sadly, something could be raging that far, that widespread and that far away from us and still have that impact on us. So not good. Not good for anybody involved.
No.
So I do have to share one last thing with you guys.
Okay.
Is I feel old. And my son's birthday was recently. He's an old man now himself. And he decided that he wanted to do a tactical laser tag. And so there's a place in town that does that. They essentially have a big warehouse, or a medium-sized warehouse with a whole bunch of like partitions and rooms and stuff like that. Is this the one over by the roller
skating place?
No, this one is clear out by the fairgrounds. Okay. And realized no air conditioning in that place. Yeah. They do have some ceiling fans that do nothing. And so I found myself, so we broke up in teams of 3. And so it's me and a whole bunch of 9-year-olds. And the guy cuts us loose, lights are off, having a blast. I find myself playing very similar to how I play video games, where I just sit back and let the guys kind of run around. And I realized it wasn't a good technique because the kids, they just sprint right up to your face and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And then like you're dead. Like no matter where you're at, by the time that you can get like a shot off, they're already gun to your head and you're gone. And so, yeah, I couldn't hang with the kids. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to play just like you guys. So here's running around and like just getting in people's faces, and with no air conditioning, I found myself getting really sick, and I found myself just sweating out, leaning up against a wall and just picking kids off, trying to pick kids off. It was a miserable / fun experience. I haven't done laser tag since I've been a kid. We grew up with a place that had 2 stories. And so there were like snipers shooting down at you. And yeah, this was a lot of fun, but I cannot play like that. It's called tactical for a reason. I'd huddle my team together and I'm like, all right, here's the deal. We're going to, 2 of you go this way. I'll go this way. We'll meet here. And they're like, okay. And they're like, ready, go. And then they just take off running and get in everybody's face and start shooting. But I did make a kid cry. And I just
you want to edit this out of the podcast, or
no, this has to stay. But I did make a kid cry, and he's kind of a whiny kid to begin with, and he was mad that I killed him while he was reloading, and I did that twice. And I'm like, this is how the game goes. That's too dang tactical. Bad. You didn't reload, and so he was getting angry, and eventually he came up to me just bawling, and he's like, "You don't let me reload," and just very sensitive.
And then
kid.
You're like,
and I look,
boop, right
I looked at him and I was like, "You need to suck it up, kid." And I sent him back on his way, and he didn't talk to me the rest of the night. But it was
scarring
it was
one youth at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to treat it as boot camp. Scream, yell at them, make them cry. Yeah, it was a good time. Tactical gaming. That's something we should do as a podcast.
Yeah,
be worth it.
Do
they kids against adults?
Do they have like a system where like there's a ring that shrinks as you?
Ooh, like a Fortnite?
No, yeah, Fortnite. That would be awesome. Like some kind of laser ring that encloses. That would be really sweet.
One of those like cat laser pointers and shine at a disco ball, and you just like have to avoid that thing as it's like bouncing lasers off of every wall.
Yeah, we had. There's a couple of missions that we can do, and it's one is to save a guy, and so they have this dummy with a pack on, and he still has the ability to shoot kind of a shotgun, which is like really wide shot. And so the the goal for one team is to protect him and guard him and try to keep people from getting to him. And the other team needs to shoot him as many times as possible. And it's just funny. The kids just run right, like, you know, again, they run right in everybody's face and you can barely shoot because they're so close to each other. And they would just like run up to this dummy and just like put the gun to the chest and just blah, 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 blah until they die. And then the next kid would come running up, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it was a funny experience. But
nice.
I think Andy, you're onto something with the Fortnite stuff. So
I think they could do it. There's got to be a way to do that
for sure. I think one of the more interesting things I saw, and this was like a couple of years back now, we went with my nephew to an amusement park for his birthday, and they had like a Mission Impossible type setup there where they take you into this like black room, and then it's got laser grids, which are, you know, like the security lasers or whatever. Then they'll fill the room with smoke, and then everybody starts off as a group. The group's got to make it across and like set the buzzer off or whatever. So you get like all these like kids and like everybody's just like weaving in and out, like trying to get through all these lasers without setting off the alarm. And it was pretty cool. The lady was like super impressed because my two kids and my nephew managed to beat like the hardest one. She's like, I can't believe you guys did that. Like, well, they're tiny, so they probably just like crawled under everything that most people would.
As you're behind them, just walking through every laser.
And I just watched them. Well, that was the best part, was like they had a blacklight camera in there, or like an infrared night cam or whatever. So you're standing out there and you can watch in the like TV, like your kid just like creeping around looking like idiots. They got the music going and everything too. It's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, that's way better than anything we had. I mean, those laser tag things back then.
The technology was not great.
Yeah, it was not good.
They were heavy too. Remember, you used to have like a backpack, and now it's just like the gun. The gun's got everything you need. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to look for some guns for the backyard or something. You know, just set something up for the kids at night. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think I've got a set of 4. So, yeah,
well, we should play it.
Yeah, we never even got to the point where we put batteries in the second set. Because like, I don't think Jill and I ever won.
What's the point?
Yeah, that was the thing, is like they bought it, my kids got it, and whoever bought it for them for the gift was thinking like, oh, well, they'll all play it. And, you know, my wife and I were just like, it was one of those things where the kids were begging and we're like, here, we'll set 2 up, you guys go. And then, you know how kids are, they play with something for 5 seconds, lose interest, and then never got brought back up again. But I'm fairly certain our other 2 guns are just still in the box. I'll find them. We'll do some tagging of lasers.
Be fun.
Yes,
that would be fun. So that was my experience. It brought me back as a kid. It was definitely fun, but very sore. Very sore.
Not as sore as that other kid's pride, you monster.
I feel good about it. I really do. These kids need to toughen up. I'm sick of these pansies.
Yeah. You know what I'm sick of? You not wrapping up the podcast.
Oh, I'm totally wrapping it. Totally wrapping it. All right. Well, this was fun, everyone. Tell us your tactical gaming experiences, if you have any, or if you've made any kids cry lately. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of those good places. You can find all things Weekend Rental at weekendpodcast.com. As always, friends, be kind and rewind.
Mac and cheese bolts.